Welcome back to America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates with Nolan Baker and Chaz Price. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. The website, arhq.com. Social Security going to be part of the retirement picture, of course, and the earliest you can claim Social Security benefits is the age 62. Or you can wait later and effectively get an 8% per year raise up to the age 70. With that in mind, still 90%, nearly 90% of Americans claim theirs before their full retirement age, and a third of them are actually collecting their monthly checks starting right at 62, as soon as they can turn it on. So obviously, this isn't the right answer for everybody, and there's so many different ways to go about it. How do you guys help clients calculate when the best time is to start claiming their benefits?
I think it's oftentimes comes down to understanding the ins and outs of how Social Security can work for you and it can work against you. I'm going to give you a couple of tips today, but one of the tips that I'm going to give to you is to come out to our upcoming event. At our upcoming event, I'm going to dive quite a bit deeper into this particular topic. On March 13th and March 15th, during our event called the Retirement Playbook over at BGSU in the Levis Commons campus in Perrysburg, we're going to be covering Social Security and help you be able to make smart decisions that are out there. If you look at the stats that are out there, according to the Social Security website, roughly about 70% of people last year, and that stat's been pretty consistent for the last couple of years, are electing to take Social Security before what is considered their full retirement age. So, again, most people age 66 or 67 is full retirement age. You, as you pointed out, Chris, can take it as early as 62, but what happens is you take a lifetime penalty when you draw benefits early. And then if you wait till later in life, you can get a substantial amount of more benefits if you wait until age 70. But again, looking at the stats, only about 6% of women and 4% of men waited until age 70 to start collecting Social Security benefits, and that stat was from 2018. What I hear, Chaz, when I ask that question, one-on-one or in an audience, I think a couple of things that I hear is, I thought I'd just start Social Security right when I retire. That's when it made sense. Mm-hmm. I hear people say, I hear Social Security is going broke, and we hear people talking about that all the time, that it's going broke, and so they just want to grab what they can before it is exhausted. And then I also hear people say, I don't plan on living that long, so I just better get what I can before I pass away.
Yeah. And I hear a similar sentiment from almost everybody. And actually, that Social Security question, I'm sure you agree, that's probably the question we get asked the most. And it's the most difficult question to answer because either it's an entitlement issue, like you talked about, that people will say, I'm going to collect as soon as I can, because I saved into it and it's my money. Or it's a solvency issue, like you mentioned, where Social Security is not going to be around. Or it's a longevity issue. But the reality is, when you said 70% of people are collecting a reduced benefit, the other thing that came to mind is that, that means then that likely 70% of widows and widowers then are likely collecting a reduced benefit or living on a reduced benefit. So it's not so much the decision that you make, but it's the decision that you make as a couple if you're still married, that I think a lot of people fail to do, is to look at the overall impact of what that decision is, not only going to be on their life, but also on the spouse's life. But it really comes down to me, and why it's so difficult to make that decision, to help clients make that decision, is because it's based on a longevity matter. It's a question of how long you're going to live, which nobody likes to talk about. It's unpleasant to think about our mortality, and numbers get thrown around all the time. We've done a lot of research. Life expectancies, for instance, life expectancy birth rate fell to 73.1 for men and 79.1 for women in 2021, and that's according to the Centers of Disease Control. So if you use that data point, Nolan, it really doesn't make sense for anybody to wait to take Social Security, to wait until 70, because you're not going to meet the break point where you have to live long enough to get to make that decision make sense. However, that I think that overall life expectancy is being dragged down by early mortalities, and someone that's 62 right now can generally expect to live to 85 is another another estimate that I've received from Social Security, but it doesn't actually probably factor into consideration the mortality rate for people over 65 during the COVID pandemic. So the question is, how long are you going to live? I think probably a better way to do that would be to, one, look at your own life expectancy, family medical history. So you can see how long people lived in your family. If they had a similar lifestyle to your relatives, that might be an easy way to predict your life expectancy in your lifespan. The other way that we do it, probably a little bit more scientific, is when we run the Monte Carlo analysis in our financial planning software. And in that Monte Carlo analysis, it's essentially a random number, a computer-generated simulation that we use to describe the possibility of outcomes in your lifetime from here on out. And so if we run a scenario that shows you collecting Social Security at age 62 and it has a really high probability of success, then that might be one to consider. If, however, if we run a scenario where you waited till 70 and it has a much higher probability of success, at least you have that information. You're armed with that analytical sort of methodical data for you to make those decisions about. In any other way is impossible because we just don't know. There's just no way for us to know how long you're going to live. So Monte Carlo is about as best as we can do.
Yeah, Monte Carlo is a good way to do it, but another way to do it is to take a look at it as far as the tax impact. So again, one more area where one decision impacts the other. So as you may or may not know, there's a taxation on Social Security benefits, where if you draw benefits early, if you continue to work before your full retirement age, you could be penalized for excess earnings. You can pay taxes on your benefits based upon what your earnings are, even after your full retirement age. But ultimately, by maybe taking other income or other investments in the early years and taking Social Security later, it can actually be much more tax favorable for you too. The way to figure it out is through getting a portfolio optimization report done. So for those of you that are not yet drawing Social Security, if you're within 5 years of getting Social Security, we have the software where we can run the portfolio optimization report for you. What we can do is we can put in the scenario. And one of the things that I usually ask people is I say, hey, what were you originally thinking on when you're going to draw Social Security? We'll put that number in there. We can run the software and run what the numbers say could be the most optimized report based upon what somebody's life expectancy and they think it's going to be. We allow you to put some input into that. And then we can run, option 2 or 3 and run some different scenarios. But, doing that is going to be the best way to make the most educated decision on how to make the decisions about Social Security. And again, this is a topic that we're going to be covering at our upcoming retirement playbook. So it's one of a couple of topics. We're going to touch on Social Security. We'll talk about the state of the economy, debt and taxes, risk in retirement, give you some of our investment methodology philosophy, talk to you about income planning. That's one more way to help educate you. Those events on the website, arhq.com. Again, March 13th, March 15th. That retirement playbook, we'll be talking about that topic. Or if you just want to jump to the front of the line and you want to get that Social Security analysis, you can call our office directly. We'll just jump you to the front of the line with the Social Security analysis.
That number to give a call, 419-794-3030. Or if you feel so inclined and you want to attend those upcoming events, the Retirement Playbook, where they're going to be discussing Social Security and so many other things as it pertains to your retirement. If you've got the time, they'd love to have you out there. March 13th, March 15th. You can find out more info, including how to go ahead and reserve your seats by going to arhq.com.